Yeah, Mr. Donovan McClure with the Kentucky Wire Project is with us today to give us an update on the project. You should have something in your packets if you all want.
Yes, thank you, Judge. Thank you all for having me here this afternoon. As the Judge mentioned, I am with the Kentucky Wire Project. Just here at my magistrate, how many of you have heard of Kentucky Wire before today, before I kind of speak? Now, how many of you have also heard of NG-KIH-DB LLC? Just a show of hands. Okay, I want to apologize. If you look at my business card, it actually shows that acronym. NG-KIH-DB LLC is what happens when you put too many engineers in the room and tell them the name of the project. And so that was actually the original name of the Kentucky Wire Project back in 2015. I see that you all do have maps in front of you of the project. From an infrastructure standpoint, we are putting in, for those of you that may not be aware of what the Kentucky Wire Project is, we are putting in fiber optic cable or glass wire that provides high-end connectivity or high-speed internet access to government services in all 120 counties throughout the state of Kentucky. And so as far east as Pike County, Kentucky, to as far west as Fulton County, Kentucky, over in Hickman. Here in Marion County, in the city of Lebanon, this project, as I mentioned, is going to government services. So it will go to your county clerk's office, it will go to your county PBA's office, it will go to the county health department that is associated with the Cabinet for Health and Family Services. The fiber will be built up to the public libraries and public schools throughout the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Now, the libraries and schools have federal contracts, so they will not be built through the schools, but they have agreed to allow the construction to be built up to the actual physical building themselves. This fiber will also be provided to state universities as well as the community colleges throughout the Commonwealth through the BCTCS system. This project is what they call a middle mile project, and the reason they call it a middle mile is we are building the backbone structure. So if you look at your maps and see that red line that is going throughout the Commonwealth, that is the actual backbone. And if you notice those blue lines, which Marion County calls under, we call those laterals, which will, yes. Oh, I'm so sorry. Black and white. I am so sorry. So if you notice through these maps, though, if you notice that it looks like they form rings in different parts of the state. So if you were to look down in Harlan County, a little bit closer to where I'm from, originally in Laurel County, in London, Kentucky, that is what we call Ring 2. Just north above it is what we call Ring 1B. Both of those rings were completed and announced the completion by Governor Matt Bevin and Congressman Hal Rogers at the beginning of September at the annual SOAR Summit. And Judge, you were at a conference earlier this summer, and the announcement was made that that golden triangle that I'm sure everybody has heard of at one point or another, whether it's an infrastructure project or a telecommunications project, from Lexington to Louisville to Cincinnati, it was also announced its completion as well. Marion County falls under what we call Ring 3. There are 6 different rings on this project, and so Marion County falls under what we call Ring 3. Northeastern Kentucky is Ring 5, and then ultimately Western Kentucky is Ring 4. What you all need to know is that there is a much higher presence of construction crews, not only in Marion County itself, but the entire region from Somerset and Pulaski County all the way to Glasgow and everywhere in between, and then also from Glasgow, Barron County up to Jefferson County and Louisville. So there is a heightened presence of crews. As the judge mentioned, I'm a part of the design build team. Legcore, one of the companies that is on this project, which also has the 30-year maintenance contract for this. But now this is a project that is run statewide by the state of Kentucky. So the Commonwealth of Kentucky owns this infrastructure. There was actually an authority that was enacted to be able to oversee this project. And so, but we're running this fiber on existing telephone poles, and a very, very small portion of this project will be run underground. So, but the reason that they put the emphasis on the middle mile is that it actually has what they call an open access network. So communities or county leaders could partner with internet service providers to provide this fiber to the home and to the business, or what they call last mile. So here in Marion County, I know that's a lot of information all at once, so I do apologize for that. But here in Marion County, you all are anticipated to be completed around the fall of next year, around the August, September time of next year. The entire project in all 120 counties will be completed no later than by the end of October of 2020, and that will be at the completion of Ring 4 in Western Kentucky. And so with that, Magistrates, Judge, does anybody have any questions for the middle mile in regards to, we've got around 60 to 80 different construction crews that work throughout the Commonwealth. As I mentioned, just as far east as Pikeville to as far west as Fulton and Hickman. So,
as you get a section done, is it made hot then and you continue on, or does the whole thing have to be complete before any?
That's a great question. So the question was, if an area or a county is completed, does that area get, for the millennials in the room, lit, which is not, but actually having that light pass through? And the answer is that the entire region has to be completed before that network will actually be turned live to have that light pass through. So just because if they...
The region or the state,
just that region. And so if you notice, I mentioned like Harlan County, that's a stretch that runs from Pike County all the way up to Somerset and Pulaski County. That is what they call Ring 2. If construction is completed in Pike County, that doesn't mean that Pike County is turned on. It has to run all the way from Pike County all the way back to Somerset before it will turn on. So it does have to be region-wide before they turn that network on. So that way, but the reason for that is this is a partially redundant network. So if you're on that actual ring, on that outer layer of it, and if there's a breaking point, or if there's a breaking point rather, that service will actually run itself all the way back around that network, all the way up to the other end of that breaking point. So that way, if there's a loss of service, it will only be a very marginal portion of it rather than the entire region just automatically goes belly up. So that was something that was strategically placed whenever they announced this project and had the inception of this project. So
what is this?
Do what?
Marion County can be rerouted then.
No, Marion County does fall under a lateral, but in terms of maintenance, that actually makes you a lot higher priority for the fact that you're not on that redundancy network and there is a loss of service. It is much more, it is a much higher priority to make sure that that connectivity is brought back online, so that way the service isn't lost for a substantial amount of time. But that is a good observation.
But where's all the service people be located for this? Some breaks, where do they come from?
That is a good question. We do have an office, LegCorp has an office in Lexington, Kentucky, but as far as statewide, I know that we will work with the Kentucky Communications Network Authority, or KCNA, that authority that I mentioned that oversees this policy, and then also working with the Commonwealth Office of Technology, or COT, to make sure that if there is a breakage point that is identified and crews are dispersed accordingly, whether it's a regional crew or if it's a crew that has to come from a home base. So, great question.
What is this possible end of 2019?
I think I wrote that on there when you...
Yes, so there was a mention from the interim executive director for the Kentucky Communications Network Authority, Mr. Decker, at the Governor's Local Issues Conference back at the end of August, had actually mentioned in a workshop that the state is anticipating that both Rings 3 and Rings 5 could be completed by the end of 2019 at the pace that construction is moving at this time.
And you said we're at 3.
Yes, ma'am. Marion County falls under Ring 3. Rings 1A, the golden triangle, or that triangle that you all see on the map in central Kentucky, Ring 1B in eastern Kentucky, and Ring 2 in southeastern Kentucky, all have 2020 projected dates that have been agreed upon between the state of Kentucky, or the Commonwealth of Kentucky, and the design build team. Both Black and Beach and Lake were the two main companies on the project. And so by that standard, those dates that have been agreed upon have been exceeded, and those rings were completed early.
So, like after all this is completed,
Yes, sir.
is there anything going from there out to our smaller communities?
So that is a great question, and that's actually what the last mile is so what this is I mentioned it's a P3 project. It's actually the largest P3 project in all of North America, a public-private partnership. And from there, county and city leaders can actually work with internet service providers to either buy or lease fiber from this infrastructure from the Commonwealth to be able to expand that infrastructure into rural communities or underserviced communities. So So that is a good question. There is the possibility of it by partnering with an internet service provider to branch that out. So essentially, we're building an interstate of high-speed internet that goes from one end of the state to the other and connects everything in between. And then from there, counties and cities will expand or make county or city roads of high-speed internet.
Well, we just need access ramps to get on this interstate.
Exactly.
And a lot of them.
Exactly. So, but that does bring a good point as far as, and again, I'm here on the middle mile, but as far as having conversations on the last mile, I do know that the Commonwealth is assessing the cost of it, and then also I know that the ag districts or the area development districts are trying to work with different county officials and region officials to be able to help identify those service providers or being able to assist in those last mile processes of what's feasible to do in a county for a last mile project or what's not feasible, and then taking those next steps.
This isn't what Google was trying to do in Louisville.
No, ma'am.
Okay.
No, ma'am. A gentleman had actually brought it up earlier tonight before the meeting, but no, this is not the same as Google's project. We are doing a middle mile, and I believe Google's project is actually more so geared towards the last mile. So, but you all have had wonderful questions this evening. If nobody else has anything else, I'll stay for the remainder of the meeting, and if anybody were to have any additional questions or would like to talk a little bit further about the project, I'll be happy to talk to them then.
And here, you run to Marion County, but it just goes to like a county seat, and if they want to go like to Bradlersville, then that's where that internet company would furnish something from here to there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it. Old business, new business, I think, Sheriff Clemens, I think you've got something you want to share with.
I appreciate it, Judge. As everyone remembers, November 14th, 2012 was a sad day for us in Marion County when we lost Deputy Anthony Rakes. And each year since then, we have, on honor about the anniversary of his passing, we have had a memorial service after hours on the grounds here. This year, however, we decided, and talking with his sisters as well, to hold a cattleman's cooking here on the grounds on November 14th, next Thursday, from 10 to 1. And the money that we raise from that will be given in Anthony's name to the Kentucky Boys and Girls Sheriff's Ranch. Each year, the Sheriff's Office from all over the state, but it's near and dear to our heart. We send children from Marion County down there for a week of camping. It's great, great camp for them. So, in honor of Anthony, we wanted to do something, make some good out of it.
November 14th.
Come out and get you a steak dinner.
Right here, it's going to be right here at this building, I think it'll be set up
right out
outside.
the parking lot here by the sheriff's office.
Yeah,
We're going to deliver. All inside. I speak. In fact, I think you make good delivery, man.
Blue light delivery.
Also, the next court meeting, I'm going to be out of town on the 21st, so we're going to do a special call on November the 20th. It'll be on Wednesday, the next court meeting. It'll be at 4 o'clock.
So then, you were saying,
It'll be a special call, so whatever's on the agenda, we got to stick to it, so.
So we won't do department reports?
We'll do all that,
Yeah.
but anything on we can't get off from some of the agenda. We got no new business. We got to stick with it. All right. And I guess just a reminder of the healthcare open, health insurance open enrollment. Does anybody else have anything? When is the Christmas parade? How much was it?
22 part of the Christmas parade and
So it's 44 total? 44 total?
1,000 for the Christmas parade.
Motion to allow for the $2,200 for probably come over at it, so Christmas parade and all.
Second. Yes.
Mr. Kirkland?
Yes.
Mr. Bishop?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Anybody else have anything?
Uh,
We do have 2 additional bills, one being the South Central roofing for the detention center at amount of $65,000. That was already,
Did I get that worked out, was the issue,
Yeah.
everything good on?
we did. And then also, we had an additional bill today from Gardner Engineering Consulting over the column issue for $5,304.09.
Where we stand?
We have a settlement on that.
Well, that was part of our mediation, that came back and gave an opinion. But,
With additions?
Yes.
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 Anybody else have anything?